Grothman.
Yeah, Ms. Logan, we'll start with you. Given the current worker shortage and skills gap, we cannot afford to spend taxpayer dollars on workforce programs that aren't effective. How do we get better data on program outcomes, such as completion and employment rates, and help steer funding to higher quality programs?
Some of this needs to be required of the providers on the eligible provider list. We need to, as our panelists have said, make sure that data is publicly available. People who are seeking out skilling need to know that the program they are going to participate in is going to yield the result that they need, that they'll be able to be placed in a job that will give them a living wage.
Thank you. Mr. Palish, we got that right. In your opinion, what are the key factors that contribute to successful workforce development programs, and how can these be integrated into a successful WIOA system?
So I think it starts with leadership at the state level. It starts with integration of programs across the state level, so that when we realize we've got many funding streams from the federal government coming into a state, the ability for a state to coordinate that funding, the ability for the state to make sure that they are leveraging the funding for its targeted intent. And then it's really getting back to performance. It's getting back to what we are holding ourselves accountable to. We've talked a lot about the ETPL list today. There are a couple of states out there who have more training programs on their ETPL than people they train. So right there, we know we have too many programs. So a lot of the responsibility falls to the governors and to the leadership at the state level to make sure that the local workforce boards are targeting that skills development.
More programs than people who are in the programs.
Correct. More training programs, correct.
How many of those are what you'd call primarily federally funded, and how many are primarily state funded?
So being on the eligible training provider list makes you eligible for WIOA funding. So as Bruce was talking about the individual training account, or the ITA, when I go to an American Job Center and I present myself and I say I need some upskilling, I want to get some skills development, in essence I'm able to pick from the eligible training provider list. The career coaches are supposed to help me narrow down that choice so that it's really informed customer choice. But by being on the ETPL, all of those are eligible for WIOA funding.
What would happen if the federal government got out of this and just the state had to determine who they were going to train on their own?
And would the state be paying in that instance on their own?
Well, I would suppose that most states want adequate job training. I mean, we in Wisconsin have a tremendous technical college system. The state and local pays for it. What do we get for having the federal government involved in it as well?
So I think we can have both. As I mentioned, I think there's responsibility at all three levels.
What would happen if the feds got out of it? What do they add to the mix?
Traditionally, what they add is funding. They add infrastructure. They add the partnerships, the ability to leverage, like I said, across programs, so that there are advantages to having the federal government as a partner in this.
Wouldn't the state pick up some of the funding? Well, Mr. Ferguson, as we look to increase access to work-based learning opportunities, some have raised concerns about the regulatory burden and administrative waste associated with WIOA workforce boards. How can we streamline these processes to reduce waste and increase efficiency while maintaining accountability and oversight? And do you feel that it's accurate that there's regulatory burden and administrative waste associated with WIOA?
Well, in our experience in Florida in particular, not only under our umbrella do we have the WIOA funding, we also have the workforce piece of TANF, of the SNAP employment and training, veteran services, et cetera. So there are a multitude of federal funding programs that operate under our umbrella, and that makes it difficult. I have to train staff across multiple programs in addition to WIOA to get the job done. And we work with multiple systems.
Okay. Lots of programs. Isn't that by itself a sign we got problems with lots of different programs? You look here and there. Wouldn't the state be a little bit more nimble and be able to handle this stuff without the feds mucking around?
Well, certainly we appreciate the funding level and the effort that does come in from the federal level to make this work.
I know we have a lot of extra federal money. I know, but go ahead.
But to have it more simplified under one program would certainly be beneficial.
Okay. Thank you.